Hey everyone, I'm testing a new mic out today, so hopefully it works. I have the levels turned all the way down because when I turn them up, there's a lot of noise in the background and it just makes the video kind of irritating to watch. And I'm already a little bit of an irritating person because of my popping sounds and all this stuff. But I'm hoping this mic is the miracle cure and it just solves all of that. So levels are down. I'm just going to run right through the whole video and we'll see afterwards. I might have to do a second take, but we'll see. So the first thing is first, I think Sam Harris and Dave Rubin and Godsad and a host of other people have been following me online because I'm just that famous and that influential. No, I'm just joking. I think what happens is these guys pay attention to each other and I pay attention to them. So sometimes I make these videos and I'm talking about something in specific, and it just kind of echoes when I watch their podcasts or their videos or their interviews, and I just think, wow, I was just talking about that. Anyway, let's not dwell on that too much because we know where the logical conclusion is. Um, so anyway, I was just watching Dave Rubin's interview with Zuby. I think I'm pronouncing his name right, and Zuby is actually a lot like me in general. Um, except for the fact that he's Christian and he believes that religion holds a special place in society and personally. And I have to disagree with that. I think that whether or not religion is there or whatever system that replaces it, whether it be communism or socialism or intersectionality or postmodernism, I think people naturally do have violent tendencies, and violent tendencies is sort of the end of the spectrum when it comes to what we're capable of, but everything in between is there as well. So animosities and conflict and disagreements, I mean, they're always going to be there as much as we're human. And I think David Benatar makes a good argument for why human life itself is suffering. Mind you, there are pleasures in life. There is beauty in life. There are relationships that you gain things from life. I am not disagreeing with that, but in terms of the way Zuby talks about the solution to those things being religion or some variant of it, it will never solve violence or suffering or anything like that. Um, but other than the religious thing, I think me and him are very alike, especially when it comes to the whole queer issues thing and being on the political spectrum. Sometimes I wonder where I am on the political spectrum. Sometimes I'm thinking center left, but then other times I'm thinking I'm center right. But I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm somewhere in that zone, in the danger zone. Um, so that works in that way. Um, so going on about the whole antinatalist thing, I decided to kind of come up with a rough policy, um, and it's very large, but it's not going to leave a scar on on society or anything like that. But I do think it's radical in a way that's very mediocre. And maybe even something people have thought of before. And sometimes I don't give myself credit because I come up with these things and I think, wow, I did absolutely no research for this. But it's not that I didn't do any research. It's just that I've read about similar things and I just kind of file that away and then it kind of pops up in my thinking later on. But my memory, and I keep making this excuse, my memory is so bad that I sometimes forget the details of where I got the stuff from, even though I have this vague recollection of getting it from a valid, reputable source like The Atlantic or Quillette. So this is my policy. Considering antinatalism and considering that we want to have birth rates dropping for a number of reasons. Some people would say climate change is a good reason to have the population kind of wind down. I don't necessarily think antinatalism should be focusing on environmental. In my humble opinion, I don't think antinatalism should be focusing on climate change as a reason for winding the population down to the point of zero, because I think, like I said, like even if there is no climate change, people themselves are violent and disagreeable and pig-headed and but there are good people in the world. I am one of them, obviously, that have good qualities that contribute to society in positive ways, and you will have that. I am not denying that. But what I'm saying is the asymmetry between the suffering and the pleasures of life is pretty obvious. Um, Even if there is no one there to experience the pleasures, there's no reason, there's no one to be sorry for. So anyway, this is my proposal. So I'll start with the thing. So I said marriage should be a 5-year renewable contract without the possibility for making it permanent. I think for some, if not most, the prospect of marriage signals a forever commitment, and then come the kids on the honeymoon night. This is forever, right? So might as well have kids. Like, I mean, we're gonna be together forever, so let's get working on that, right? Um, so having that permanency removes having that permanency or that feeling of permanency removed gives people the awareness of the temporality and more space in which to think about whether they should have children or they should pursue a career or do they really love this person. Overall, it's just a more thoughtful consideration of marriage if you take away the permanency. Um, and I guess on that first point, it's not radical if you think about it this way. Marriage as an institution is dissolving anyway. And when I say dissolve, like, I mean, you think about divorce rates and people trapped in loveless marriages and things like that. Like, I mean, marriage as an institution is kind of breaking down in the contemporary world. And I think it just creates more headaches and missed opportunities for people who kind of jump into a marriage and then realize, it's not so great. Like, to quote Homer Simpson, I just watch myself getting bald and fat, and just all my dreams slipping away, and the kids are whining at me, and my wife is nagging at me, and like I just anyway. But that's a very misogynistic way of looking at it. But I mean, it was on The Simpsons, and everybody loves The Simpsons. So I think that's the first point. The second point is you should be able to marry anyone you want as long as it's consensual. So your mother, your brother, your niece, your sister. You should also be able to enter into the contract with multiple people, and that also isn't that necessarily radical. You think about the gay marriage thing and the way we've gone over the same arguments for like decades now. Well, what about a decade and a half now of basically saying it doesn't matter who you marry, like it doesn't affect anybody else. Like, I mean, if you don't want to marry your mother, don't. It doesn't affect anybody else. Like, that's if somebody else wants to marry their mother, then go for it. And I'm not talking about marriage as a sexual relationship, just so we're clear. Although sexually, that's your business what you do in your marriage. Like, do whatever it is you want. And the reason I say you should be able to marry anybody you want is because I think marriage should be more of a convenient thing, both financially and in terms of raising kids, if there are any. Like, there should be freedom to kind of create a tax aware partnership with anybody you want. And sometimes some people would just make a better fit than, say, somebody you have sexual love with. Um, but so I mean, your sexuality, your business, but you can marry whoever you want and how many ever. And it always has to be consensual. Everything must be consensual, and everybody has to be adults in the relationship. And then the third point is there should be regular fees and taxes allocated to the partnership. I don't know exactly how taxes are calculated for marriages now. I know there's a whole new ban, not ban, but like they reverted, not reverted. I think the liberal government, or they are going to. I should know this, but whatever. I think income sharing has been eliminated, so I think husbands and wives can do taxes separately. I think that's what it means, but I should. This is something I need to look into. But the point being is, the partnership should be tax aware based on the regular stuff. Residence, income, relationship, children, debt, and however they do it for regular marriage now between a man and a woman, or a man and a man, they should just apply this to this new system of marriage that I'm proposing, and everything should be taxed and feed, um, and all that money collected from the taxation and fees and all that stuff, including renewing the contract every 5 years, et cetera, et cetera, and should go to abortion clinics and family planning. Uh, those parts of healthcare should be funded by all this stuff being taxed. And so to get a little bit more specific on the children thing, I think overall that already makes forces people to think more about having kids. Like, this thing's gonna be up in 5 years. Like, do I want to have kids? Do I really love this person? Like, I mean, can I live with them? Let's test it out for 5 years. And the contract's up, and you can renew it if you like. Um, and I mean, this also implies that marriage is not permanent. But what I'm saying is, it right now as it is, it's not anyway. So, why not tax it, right? Like tax it and make people think more about their careers and like where they want to move instead of like just tying themselves down to like an anchor and having kids and getting, disillusioned with everything. Um, and then so this part just drives it home about the kids, but in that contract, in that marriage contract, even if it's the second term of the contract or whatever, um, you and your husband, like, even you must be married. Sorry, yeah, you must be married, but you must have undergraduate degrees. You must have undergraduate degrees before you have decide to have children. um, I think that's positive. I don't know how practical and cost efficient that is to make sure that your whole population is basically undergraduate educated, but I think that is the goal in any sense, in any case. Um, and this does actually two things. First of all, it makes you consider your career and your potential as opposed to just being a breeder. I don't like using that word because it's something some anti-natalists use in a derogatory way. Um, but and maybe rightly so. I don't know, but I don't like using it. But like, I mean, instead of just being a breeder, you have that chance. And I think an undergraduate degree will spell that chance out for you in many cases. Even if it's not some grandiose career dream, it at least gives you some education and an understanding of the world that is beyond, well, I'm just going to pump some kids out, you know? Um, and yes, so, and if you violate that contractual agreement with the government in terms of having kids outside of having an undergraduate degree, you pay a penalty. Now, this is funny because it looks like it's punishing poor people, right? But if you're so poor you can't afford kids, then it doesn't make sense that you're having kids and that's okay, as opposed to like paying a penalty for having those kids. Okay, I admit that part is a little bit fuzzy, right? That's a little bit fuzzy. But what I'm hoping for is that penalty for having kids actually makes people consider it should be a hefty penalty too, right? Um, like like somewhere in the range of like $2,000 $3,000, that's enough for first year of university, right? Kinda, or for a college course or something. um, but it should be a hefty penalty, and I'm hoping that penalty actually just really really drives the point home that try and get a higher level of education before you think about kids. um, and yeah, that's my policy right now. I don't know how I'm gonna move forward with this because I'm not really a policy guy. I never have been. I've never written policy, and I don't even know if this is policy really, except for just maybe a fuzzy idea of something. I don't know, but yeah. Um, and and the thing is, if you have kids within the wedlock, but you also both have, the man and the woman has to have an undergraduate degree, like that. If you have kids, then you both parents are educated. They both have post-secondary education, and how could an educated parental unit be a bad thing? So I mean, it's positive. It's not all negative. Like it's positive. Like, who wouldn't want to be an educated parent, a socially aware parent? So yeah, that's basically that. Uh, yeah, I think I'll end it there. Hopefully my mic worked and everything sounds honky dory. Okay, bye.